Helen Fisher is going to speak to us as Programme Director for Tottenham in Haringey, taking us back out into the broader view of what's involved in dealing with stakeholders.
So clearly, the most important stakeholders you have are your tenants and your residents. But I'm going to talk about some of those other people that we work with. And I think the first thing you do is say, who are they? It's going to come soon. It's going to come soon. So any scheme that you have is going to have a really broad range of partners. And your wonderful little booklet talked about consumers and producers, which I really quite like. So if you thought about who's going to be there at the end of this, it's your tenants, it's your leaseholders, it's your businesses, it's your voluntary sector, it's your other public sector organisations. So they end up being the consumers, but then you've got a whole bunch of people that are involved in producing, making, financing the scheme. So politicians, local and regional, other parts of the council, public sector, GLA, TfL, etc., developers, registered social landlords, investors, consultants and advisors. And I'm sure there's a whole bunch more of that. So actually what you end up with is a really, really complicated set of relationships that you need to work with. Frankly, local authorities do not have the money to do this all on their own. Hackney's special. But most of us have a very different model, which is about engaging lots and lots of other people because we can't do it on our own. Some of those relationships between those different stakeholders are different. Some you need to hold close and work with them very closely. Others are a much more ad hoc relationship. So you really need to think about each stakeholder that's involved, what they bring to the party, what you want from them and what you give them back. And then what you can build is an effective stakeholder relationship around those. And I always think of regeneration as that we're the glue. We bring all of this together. We do the brokering between these people to make this proper partnership. So that it isn't just the producers. The reality is you need to build confidence in the private sector. You need to work with your advisors and the property agents in order to build confidence because you need money. You need money and you need good deliverers to enable you to deliver all the things that you want to deliver. So, as I say, you end up with a hugely complicated network of people and you really have to design something bespoke for every scheme that you do in terms of doing that. As everybody has said, estate renewal is more than about housing, it's about places, it's about people, and it's about thinking how you bring those other people into it. One of the things I've really noticed working in Haringey now is that as local authority budgets reduce, we have to work much more closely than I've ever done before with our other departments in the council so that we can help them deliver on their outcomes through estate renewal and public health, education, all of those different services, adults, etc. Working much more closely with them about how we can build bigger bang for our bucks. So some of those lovely stakeholders that you've got and landowners, the reality is they're going to have a vastly different agenda to you. So one of the things we have is a football club. So if you look at the foreground, this is our big estate renewal, High Road West, we're calling it, which will go to the market very shortly. And what sits at the top is Northumberland Park, another huge estate renewal. And so what you can see in the middle there is a spaceship, a 61,000-seater stadium being built, rebuilt at the moment. Working with a partner like that is, you know, you just have very, very different agendas. So actually the other bit is saying, well, where do we come together here? Where do we come together? So actually what the stadium brings us is a huge amount of benefits to our local economy. A huge amount of business goes through that. Lots and lots of people come through that. So public realm, thinking about safety, thinking about transport connectivity. So huge amounts of benefits. And more about Spurs would be over a glass of wine, I think. So in terms of challenges that we've talked about in terms of effective stakeholder engagement, and I think this is just picking up on some of the points that people have already made. Estate renewal is hugely emotive, as we know, and you have to be absolutely honest with yourself and with other people about why you're doing it. And I think Sue's picked up earlier about it's not just about stock condition, it's about a whole range of other things. And unless you're honest about that, you can't have an honest dialogue, not only with your residents and tenants, but actually also with all of your other stakeholders. So places and people, not just about property. So all of these people will have different objectives, and actually the art of what we do is trying to find those points of agreement and really work on those points of agreement and share some of that. Our job is to build support across a wide range of stakeholders. We often have issues about different timing, different funding streams, different objectives. So again, what we need to do is bring all of that together so you end up with a plan that everybody's working to in terms of objectives and to timing. Managing expectations of what can be delivered, I think, again, has been raised earlier. But for me, particularly with our other public sector colleagues, so yes, we can rebuild that school, but actually that's probably going to take us 7 years, because first of all, we need to move that, so we can then move that, so we can put things together. So there has to be an honesty in that relationship and managing those expectations, not just of our residents, but actually of our other partners. I think one of our biggest challenge, and particularly at the moment, is that we ask people to think about 15 to 20 years in timescales, but who knows what's going to happen next month. You know, we're working in a very, very fast-changing policy environment. And so it's very difficult when you're having relationships with people to say, I can't promise you this, I think this is what's going to happen, but I can't promise it. So managing that, I think, is hugely important. So I won't go through all of these, but these are just some general principles, some stuff I've learnt. And I'm sure very, very familiar to all of you. So everything that people have raised: strategic framework, clarity, vision and leadership, governance, close working, understanding development drivers, understanding the range of tools and levers that as a council we can bring to the party. Being realistic about public sector ask, again, really important to me. Some people think that development schemes are a limitless pot of money, and actually it's a finite pot of money, and you have to be just really clear about what it is you want to see from it. And increasingly important to me, particularly in days of austerity, is ensuring the social dividend, that, you know, that we get bang for our bucks for everything that we do, and that's embedded within each scheme. So talk. You said preparation. So I find that I just talk and talk. And it's about being clear about what you're doing. It's about building a really, really strong narrative that's more than just housing. It's about the jobs, it's about the training, community facilities, health facilities. And I think then you have a much more powerful narrative that engages a lot more people. Key for me about landowners, and for them to see their role in a much bigger picture, not just about their schemes, and finding champions, because of course the best thing is always that you end up stopping talking because other people are doing the talking for you. So a couple of examples from, so one is from 9 Elms, a place that I worked previously, 35 major development sites, 12 major landowners, 2 local authorities, 3 highways authorities and 3 planning authorities. So, and that doesn't count TfL, Network Rail, Port of London Authority, you know, you had everybody in there. So corralling that into a partnership was interesting. So a couple of things that I learnt from there. However fantastic your private sector partners are, they expect the public sector to take a strategic lead in terms of plan making and strategy. So, and just accept that. So I started off with, we're all going to be equals, we're all going to share it, and actually that's probably not the way it works. So I think our private sector partners were fantastic in the partnership, but expected that to be within a framework that was actually provided pretty much by the public sector. Clarity of purpose, objectives, etc., what you want. And what I mean by that is most of your private sector partners actually don't have huge organisations. So we had this wonderful governance arrangement, which was a partnership board, several thematic boards, and what we expected was everybody to come to everything, and they can't. So you have to be really, really careful about your governance structures to make sure that people engage in that. The other thing is that developers are not a representative democracy. So expecting one developer to represent all developers just doesn't work. So again, you need to think about how you're going to manage that within an organisation. The final thing I'd say is partnership working is a huge investment. Big transactional costs involved in partnership working. So setting up huge structures that people can't engage in is not a good use of anyone's time, and people will stop coming. So be really, really clear and succinct. I think I've run out of time. Can I talk about Tottenham How? Tottenham How, very different proposition there. We do own land, but not huge amounts of land, so that's very much about bringing all the partners together there in a very different way. You can see some of the things that we're doing there, around 5,000 new homes, 4,000 new jobs, and that really is a big old partnership job working with that. And it is about setting that framework, but it is about using our land effectively and bringing everybody together, and particularly about the infrastructure. And then just some final thoughts, which is just repeating earlier comments, which is clarity of vision and confident leadership. You need that really powerful and consistent narrative, clear and effective governance, effective and modern communications. I like talking, that probably doesn't surprise you, but you can't talk to hundreds of people all of the time, so you have to find different ways of doing that. No substitute for personal relationships. And the other point is partnerships evolve. So we're evolving the Tottenham How partnerships because we're now in delivery. We're no longer planning, we're in delivery. So you need to be flexible and very light on your feet about that. Thank you.
Thank you, Helen.